Johnson, and I work with Henrico County Public Schools as an intervention coordinator. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here this evening. This is truly a partnership. As you can see, we couldn't do this alone. A community partnership is needed to address youth substance use, and the most important partner in that collaboration is you, parents. Our parents, guardians, caregivers that work day in and day out to provide guidance and support to youth to assist them in making healthy choices. This has proven to be even more challenging over the last few years. It continues to be more challenging. Sadly, in 2022, more people died in Henrico County because of drug overdoses than from homicide or motor vehicle accidents. This is a huge issue, and we're working tonight to really start at the beginning where we're educating parents. So in addition to the involvement of parents, guardians, and the community, our youth have a very important role in that as well. We have some youth here today from Frina High School and Rolfe Middle School who are down in the gym having some education as well, so we're really thankful to add that component. At this time, I would like to welcome Allison Martin back up here to share. Allison Martin is the Henrico Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney. So, welcome.
I am so grateful to be here tonight, and I'm so happy to see folks in the crowd. It really does make an incredible difference to have engaged family members, engaged parents, engaged guardians. I am here to talk a little bit about marijuana and what we are seeing anecdotally in our juvenile justice system. It's important for you all to understand what marijuana use is looking like, particularly with respect to the way that we're seeing it rolled out in the form of gummies and other edibles. We're going to pick up and we're going to talk a little bit. Oh, I love a clicker. That's great. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you all. Let's just make sure this thing is working. We're going to talk a little bit about marijuana and THC gummies. As we kind of work our way through, I think it's really important to start by talking about the fact that marijuana in the forms that we saw it 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago is not the same marijuana that we're looking at today. And I'd like to kind of start by asking a little bit about what people know. Out of every 10 people who use marijuana, about how many people are going to become addicted? Not that high, fortunately. It's about 2 in every 10. And when we're talking about that addiction, we're talking about a physical addiction, and we're also talking about psychological addiction. People become very dependent on THC and marijuana the same way that people can become dependent on cigarettes, and the same way that people can become dependent on alcohol. And that's something that's really important for us to know as we're working with our young people. Now listen, one of the nice things about me is as I cruise into increased middle age, I'm in the same boat that you guys are in. I've got teenagers too. And what we know is that the marijuana that we are seeing today for our teens is not what we saw in the 60s. It's incredibly potent. And we're going to talk about why that's important in a minute. Can marijuana erase IQ points? Thoughts? Okay, so it actually, as it turns out, it probably doesn't erase IQ points in the way that we think about IQ as a conventional measure of intellect, but what it does erase is it erases motivation and it erases memory, right? So it erases making you want to do something, and then you can't remember what you were supposed to do. So it does erase those two things. Has the concentration of THC in marijuana tripled in the last few decades? At least. And because the industry is still unregulated, we oftentimes don't actually know how powerful the THC in edibles is. As a juvenile prosecutor, and as a prosecutor who prosecutes crimes committed against juveniles, I am seeing for the first time in my career kids winding up in the emergency room, and the exposure is THC edibles. and that's what's bringing them into the emergency room. What's the real danger? Well, if you're exposed to opioids and we're able to give you some Narcan, and I encourage everybody to take that before you leave, we can bring a kid back if it's an opioid exposure, right? We can't do it if it's marijuana because it's not hitting the same neurosensors, so we can't bring a kid back up who's been overexposed to marijuana. I will tell you all that in Virginia, we now have actually had our first documented THC deaths. And so that was actually out of Spotsylvania County, which is really, really upsetting. Are edibles a safer way to use marijuana? Absolutely not, right? People who would be afraid, perhaps, to pick up a joint and smoke it are less afraid to take a gummy. And of course, we're seeing right now in the marijuana industry what we saw in the tobacco industry 40 years ago when products were being marketed to children. And you're going to see that tonight, and it's going to blow your minds. Because in fact, the children are becoming the product. That's who big marijuana is marketing to now. So let's pick up and talk a little bit about this. Again, marijuana is being suggested to consumers of product that marijuana is something that's safe. It's being suggested that it's something that's reasonable for teens to take. The fact of the matter is that's just not true. Marijuana legalization, it's important for us to talk about it. It's a national movement. It's been relatively prominent since the 1970s. It's really kind of gained momentum here in the past 10 years. Right now, I'll remind all the folks in the room, marijuana is illegal at the federal level and continues to be scheduled as a Schedule I substance. It appears likely that that is going to be reevaluated here in the next coming weeks. Just because it's legal in Virginia does not mean that it's not still federally illegal. It is, okay? It's now been legalized at the state level in some form in 37 states, 3 territories, and DC. Some states have fully legalized it, others have legalized it for medical purposes. Currently in Virginia, those under the age of 21 may not possess marijuana. So remember, like alcohol, it's still a regulated substance for kids under the age of 21. What does legalization of marijuana mean? What it means as a practical matter is 2 things. And these 2 things are super important for kids. They're super important for kids who are exposed. They're super important as we talk to our kids about drug and alcohol use. And believe me, I'm in the same boat that you guys are. I'm having these conversations with my 15-year-olds, and it's crazy not to, right? What it means is it's more available, and it also means that it's more socially acceptable. And we're seeing that played out in our communities. Why are more kids being accidentally overdosed on marijuana gummies? Because they're more available. Because people aren't locking them up. Because people are no longer ashamed of using drugs the way that they were 30, 40, 50 years ago, because people aren't worried about getting arrested any longer for the use of marijuana, right? It all makes sense. Everything that I am seeing in my practice is reflected in this. Should we be worried about increased marijuana use, especially in gummy form for our teens? Absolutely, we should. And why is that? Well, in general, people think, oh, I don't have to worry about marijuana, it's a safe drug. The notion that it's completely safe is incorrect when you start to think about the consequences of this very high content THC marijuana. And let's talk about why that is. It's more potent than it used to be. Up until the 1990s, and that sadly is when I was packing my bags to head off to college, the content of THC was about 3 to 4%. By 2000, marijuana breeders started to create stronger strains. It's 12%. Now where marijuana is legal, it is not uncommon to see strains of 20% or higher. And guess what we're not regulating, folks? We're not regulating how much THC can be in your marijuana. I imagine that we are going to see regulation as it becomes federally legal, which I think we can anticipate. There are going to be regulations put in place. It is going to be monitored the way tobacco is, but right now it's the Wild West, right? And if you are a purveyor or a seller of marijuana, it's a selling point to have a higher THC product rather than a lower THC product. So,
Sometimes teens don't even know what's either in the weed or the gummies that they're sold. Edibles often will have a potency of up to 80%. Think about how high that is. It's extraordinary, right? And if you're a child who's unlucky enough to get into your mom or your dad's gummies, you can take enough that you can send yourself you can suppress your respiration and your heart rate so much so that we have to keep you on life support to keep you alive. That happens, that is documented, that is happening in the city of Richmond. I have just handled a matter involving a kid who is 13 years old, whose mother, who was at a slumber party, the mother of the slumber party girl gave the child, who was not her own child, gave her gummies. The child wound up in VCU in the emergency room. It's happening all the time. Now, I'm not here to be the boogeyman. I am not here in any way, shape, or form to say that this is an epidemic. But I am here to say that we are seeing it now in a way that I did not see it 20 years ago. So, guess who's attracted to edibles? Kids and teens. Why? Because they're delicious, right? You don't have to smoke them. They taste good. And you're going to see when you hop up on the stage, courtesy of the sheriff and her programming, they're being marketed to teens. They are being marketed to your children. So, what does the science say? What the science tells us is American teens are using marijuana at a higher rate in the past. About 11% of teens are using marijuana daily. That's double the rate from a decade ago, and it's the highest rate of regular use since we started checking this out in the 80s, okay? That's not my information. That's not Allison Martin on marijuana use. That's the National Institutes of Health. Should we be worried about increased marijuana use in our teens? In a short word, yes. Why? Because adolescent and young adult brains are susceptible because the brain is still developing and are sensitive to drugs in general. You are more sensitive when you are younger to drug use than you are when you are older. Marijuana adversely affects memory and motivation, two critical skills for being a successful student and getting ahead in life. Do you remember stuff and do you care that you remembered it? You use marijuana every day and you don't care about either thing, okay? Young people need to get to class, they need to do homework, they need to do sports, they need to see their friends. The truly terrible part, and it's in the upper right-hand corner, the truly nefarious part of this is the more weed a person smokes, especially when the brain is still developing, the less you care about adverse consequences. So it starts to be a negative spiral. In a small but statistically significant group of children, kids who take weed can experience psychosis. Doesn't happen all the time, but it happens occasionally. Marijuana can also cause cyclical vomiting when used in kids. In Colorado, this again, you can see this research is a couple of years old, where marijuana became legal early. Emergency room doctors have seen an approximately threefold increase in emergency room visits related to cannabis. And as I said before, edibles are being marketed to your teens. Now, put another way and simply, if you only take home one thing tonight, this is it, this is the slide. The more weed you smoke, the more gummies you take, the less you remember about what you're supposed to do and the less you care about what you were supposed to be doing. That's the strong takeaway. And that is a takeaway that is adversely affecting our teens more than it is the fully developed adult brain. And remember, what do we now know about the fully developed brain, particularly in males? It's not there until they're usually between 21 and 25. That's when we see the finalization of the development of brain development in the prefrontal cortex. So, Henrico's experiencing in-school overdoses. We see them all the time. Anecdotally, most of the overdoses we see in our schools are related to the ingestion of marijuana gummies. They'll typically require some kind of medical intervention. Narcan doesn't work, and we talked about why. Deaths from cannabis overdoses have been documented in the medical literature. Typically, they're to younger children just because they're smaller. Cannabis compounds latch onto molecules in the brain that influence memory, cognition, and pleasure. These molecules are not found in the areas that control breathing. Typically, symptoms of cannabis overdose will be exactly what you think they are, which are lethargy and sedation. So, what about a parent who provides gummies or other marijuana products to a child? The penalties can range depending on what the evidence looks like. In short, if you are a parent, do not provide marijuana or other edibles to your kids. It's illegal. If we can prove it, you will be prosecuted. Now, what happens to a child who overdoses in schools? Diversion can be a possible pathway. What do we know about the research about kids who become justice involved? If you become justice involved as a child and you enter into the criminal justice system, it is more likely that you will develop a criminal history as you get older. That's not something that anyone wants. If you are a kid who makes a mistake, the police don't want you to go to jail or juvenile detention. The Commonwealth's attorney doesn't want that to happen. Shannon Taylor, my boss, doesn't want that to happen. We want to keep kids out of the justice system by using the diversion pathway. What does diversion mean? Diversion means that we divert or steer your criminal case off course in favor of doing something else. Now, if diversion is unsuccessful, can a criminal process commence? Of course it can. But again, we don't want it to ever come to that. We want to keep every kid who goes through the Henrico County school system out of the criminal justice system. That's our goal. If you've got any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to call my boss, Shannon Taylor, who's the elected Commonwealth's attorney for Henrico County. My name is Allison Martin. It is my honor to be here tonight. What we are doing is so fundamentally important, and I just feel so grateful to be included and be part of the conversation. Thank you all very much.
At this time, I would like to welcome up Officer Alan Rice, who is a school resource officer here at Verona High School.
All right, good evening. As said before, my name is Officer Alan Rice. Been here at Verona for the past about 2.5 years. Before that, I worked South Station for the past 6 years, the airport area, Sandstone areas where I worked. Really, the biggest thing we're seeing multiple things here at the schools. Biggest thing is vapes, marijuana, and THC products, whether it's gummies, edibles of either gummies or Skittles. We've seen them they kind of look like Rice Krispie treats, but they're Fruity Pebbles, and they've been laced with THC, and they cut them out and make them look like Rice Krispie treats. The biggest thing is these kids just don't understand what the THC can do to them over the time. A lot of things say, don't take that gummy, don't eat that gummy. Oh, it ain't working, so let me take another one. That didn't work, let me take another one. Well, now they're 3 in, and then the first one finally hits them. And then the second one hits them, and then the third one hits them. So I've had kids that are having panic attacks, laying on the floor, not looking at me like I'm not even there. Heartbeats elevated, everything. So the biggest thing that I can say, it starts at home. It starts with education, it starts with parents. You coming here is where it starts, because you're showing that you care, right? Vapes is another issue that we're having. I don't know what it is, the kids like to go in the bathroom, huddle up, 6, 7 people in a stall, and pass around one vape. And they're all putting their lips on it, they're all smoking it, and they're all passing it around. And they just say, oh, it's just a vape, it's not that big of a deal, right? Well, some vapes do have THC, you can get marijuana vapes, you can get tobacco vapes, it just depends, right? But it's also a health issue, right? You're putting your mouth on something that some other kid had, all that other stuff. And then again, you don't know where that kid got that vape. So it's the biggest issue that we face as SROs in the school. We have to ride that line between legal and letting the school handle the disciplines. We try not to get involved unless we have to. If there is a legal matter that has to be sought, we'll do what we need to do as our job. But we try to let the school handle 98% of the issues that go on. Does that work? Not all the time. But we feel that if we get involved, we look like the bad guys. I'd rather take my time to educate somebody and try to go that route. If I keep seeing you over and over again, then obviously what I'm doing isn't working, so we'll take the next step that needs. We don't see much alcohol anymore. That's kind of, I want to say it's gone down by the wayside, but we don't see it too much in the schools anymore. We used to see it a lot, but that's not really an issue anymore. The biggest thing, like I said, is the gummies. I've talked to a couple of the kids. A lot of them have said it's because you can't smell it. You don't know, right? You don't know I took it. You know, there's kids that walk by us that just reek of it, and you can just smell it all day long. But most of the kids that do it, they say, "Oh, I took the gummy because you don't know." I've seen them come in forms. I'm pretty sure they have some up here. I've seen them come in packs that look like the troll gummies, the worms, and they look exactly like it. I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I tell all of them, it's like back when I was a kid. Don't eat candy from a stranger. If I didn't buy it from you, if I didn't give it to you, please don't eat it. I go through all their candy still from anytime they go to Easter, we go anywhere we get candy. Because you just don't know. So it's the biggest point that we need to try to get across to these kids is you don't understand what marijuana and THC can really do to you. We are fortunate, and Allison can kind of back me on this. I don't think we've had any fentanyl cases laced with that I know of.
So I've had a lot of child deaths related to fentanyl the past 2.5 years. I have not had any during any school day
right.
in Henrico County. Thank God, and
Knock on wood. But we are, that is our fear. Our fear is eventually that these kids are going to start getting stuff that has fentanyl in it. Because it's never just one kid that takes it. It's one kid that gets caught, whether it's he was giving it to somebody or whether he's having a reaction to it. But it's always 3 or 4 of the kids that took it. And I carry a thing of Narcan on me. My partner carries a thing of Narcan on me, but that's only 2. And our nurse, I believe our nurse has 1, 2, or 3, or I believe so. But the chances of me knowing that I need to give you Narcan in school, it's far and few between, because I'm not thinking that. We aren't thinking that. But if we got to give it, and I got to give it to 2 kids, well, guess what? I'm out. I don't got anything on me. And now I'm waiting on rescue or our nurse. Hopefully our nurse isn't tied up with something else. So it's just the big, again, we're not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to induce a lot of fear into the issue of, well, my kid can, come to school and die not because of a mass shooting or something like that. But, this stuff is, again, it's being marketed to kids. When we were in school, when I was in school, marijuana was marijuana. It wasn't, you didn't get anything else with marijuana, it was marijuana. We even had a saying on the street back when my parents were around, cocaine was cocaine. That's what you got. But unfortunately nowadays, nothing's good enough anymore. They're chasing that next high, they're chasing that next run. So again, that one gummy, maybe I can take 2 now. 2 turns into 3, 3 turns into 4, so on and so forth. So kind of going back to the schools, again, it's the vapes, it's the marijuana, it's the gummies, and it's just the education. They just don't understand where it comes from. But hopefully we can try to get ahead of this and stop it now before it gets to a point of, like Allison said, some type of pandemic of some type. And I would say a lot of it also is attitude of some of the kids. It won't happen to me. It's not going to be me. Unfortunately, it takes a tragic event in the community to kind of hit home to some kids. You know, we had one here a couple weeks ago with a student involved in the community, and some of the kids finally came up to myself and my partner and wanted to talk about gun violence and stuff that they can try to start doing at home or how to stay away from it. I don't want that to happen with marijuana, right? But it's unfortunately it's going to get there. We just had an event Friday called Impact Crash that I put on with VCU. It is geared more towards DUI-related accidents, but we also talked to them about that we're seeing it with THC. A lot of these kids now are starting to drive. They get in a car with a buddy, they're sharing a joint, or they had a couple edibles. Well, you can still get a DUI for driving high, and the crash can still be the same result. So that hit home to a couple kids realizing that you don't have to just be smoking. You can be texting, you can be drinking, you don't have to be just drinking. You can be smoking, you can be texting, everything like that. So take a look at when you guys come up here, take a look at some of these things. It's amazing what you're going to be able to find, or what is going to be hidden in plain sight. We have found things inside pencil holders, in between binders, the spines of binders, hidden compartments in backpacks that they've cut and sewed, Coke cans, deodorant cases, you name it. We found it in there. And even the vape pens. Some of the vape pens are looking like normal pens now, and we don't know. We had one on a kid the other day that he had it in his shirt pocket. And the only reason why we took a look at it was because the light was on. The power light was on. We just kind of wondered what it was, asked him, he tried to hide it, so we put two and two together on that one. So don't be afraid to be that parent that looks into their kid's room. Take a peek around. I'm not saying you gotta invade the privacy or do anything like that, but don't be afraid to take a look around. Don't be afraid to look in their phone. I told my 11-year-old son when he got his phone earlier this year, that's my phone. You're just borrowing it. I'm gonna look at it when I want, and you're not gonna say a word about it. So that's how my dad treated me. That's how I was raised. So don't be afraid, because that's where, again, especially these kids now, everything's going to be hidden on their phones. And it's going to be hidden in their backpacks, it's going to be hidden in their rooms and places that you're not even going to think all that. So that's a normal display of something. It's amazing. They're going to find a way to hide it. So if you got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here every single day of the week. And other than that, that's pretty much it.
As Officer Rice mentioned, Hidden in Plain Sight is a way for parents to come firsthand and see some signs of drug and alcohol use by teens. Our Orbit volunteers have created a teenage bedroom on the stage, and it's an opportunity for you to come up, take your time, look around, and look for some of those things that Officer Rice was mentioning. So welcome to you all to come on up onto the stage.
That could be alcohol.
Yeah, that's a,
Yes.
This look like a regular mouse, don't it?
All right here.
And you can take it loose. This is a weed scare.
Oh, really?
That's what I was talking about. You missed it.
So I did learn something with that one. That was a.
Oh, there we go. I wouldn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
So what is
Yeah, that's a vape pen. That's a reefer pen. Or
This is a
pen.
vape pen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how can you tell? I see something with an 8 on there.
Right, you see the marijuana tree?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Then you have
Right.
Go in the dry sheet, man.
boom. Slide it right up in your jeans.
Yeah, that's an old. Look at all the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And you know that's hard for law enforcement too.
What do you find?
So the number one thing for me was the mouse was turned into a scanner. So I would have never thought, because I think of myself as being pretty, into the street, savvy and connection, but that got me.
Yeah.
The scanner got me.
Yeah, because, the mouse got me first, too, right?
Right.
because just like you said, we think we understand the streets and we've been there, but then they always introducing new things, right? So that's why it's important for us to be here. All right?
Dryer sheets.
Dryer sheets.
I would have never even thought of those. But then again, it makes sense. You're always trying to cover up the smell, so.
Anything else? Everybody stuck out to you all?
Something I've never heard of before. Dad in the book. Never heard of it before.
I have a question about all of those drinks. I mean, they sell these to the children, like that Mountain Dew, and that's not the real Mountain Dew. I was like,
Yeah. It's you know, we laugh, but it's, you know.
I would say a lot of these folks are new students. A lot of these folks are near every school.
yes, I've seen them. They are. They are a lot of different places.
So the access is very easy for the kids to get this.
Just like you see vape shops everywhere now. Everywhere. Okay, so parents, what did we find? Lighters, bags, corn bags, plastic sandwich bags, scales, grinders, cigars, dad, bookcases, book bags, makeup. For example, individual flash tubes that look like feminine hygiene products. Anyone see that? Cigarette papers, glass, wood, or plastic smoking pipes. Keepsake boxes to store any drug paraphernalia. Candy, snacks, and drinks that may look like a typical everyday item we get from the grocery store. Incense, candles, air fresheners, dry sheets being used frequently. Empty water bottles, altered bottles, soda, or 2-liter bottles. 2-liter bottles. Feel free to correct me if you want to. Lottery tickets, cigarettes, cigarette packs. Air duster. Anyone see that? Burnt holes on bed sheets, blankets, and clothing. All right, teen experimentation, Experimentation plays the biggest role in teenage drug and alcohol use. It is more important to understand why some teens are tempted to experiment. And when we look at experiment, that's what started with me here at Verona High School. For the parents that know, I went to Verona High School. I was a student athlete at Verona High School, but it started with me smoking marijuana and with the alcohol experiment at a party. Common reasons teens abuse drugs include curiosity, peer pressure, stress, emotional struggles, and a desire to escape. 90% of teens are initially exposed to pictures of their peers drinking or using drugs and social media before they reach the age of 15. Underage drinking and alcohol abuse. Again, alcohol was a gateway for me, a gateway. Henrico County has a zero tolerance to its underage drinking enforcement efforts. Youth in the United States more commonly use and abuse alcohol. Alcohol abuse is responsible for more than 4,700 deaths annually among underage youth. Parents, prevention measures. Communication. Communication with your teen about rules and consequences for drinking underage. Tell them to call you immediately if they get in a situation. They know it's safe, no matter what time it is or where they are. it's something, I'm a parent myself. I have 5 children. And I know for my parents didn't have a substance use issue. But as parents, I think sometimes we struggle with knowing or being an enabler or a supporter. Something to put in your back pockets, parents. Role model. Being a good role model. Set an example as a responsible adult. This is one of the most important ways to demonstrate your values and ideas about drinking. With me, my oldest is 20 years old, and I have those tough conversations. with them. I let them know I had 4 DWIs as well. I let them know what can happen, the consequences. I put it out there forefront. Alert. Parents, be alert. Stay observant of their schedules and the peers that are hanging around. I think we said last time, be nosy. Be nosy. New drinks being introduced every day may be sold at your local gas stations and easily accessible areas. Drinks that may look like sodas could now have an alcohol content of 5%. Buzzballs, ready-to-drink cocktails, mixed drinks made from 100% juice, containing vodka, tequila, and rum. There is 15% alcohol by volume. Marijuana legalization. I just want to say a couple things real quick before I pass this, because Aaron said, hey, keep going. I'm going to pass it real quick. I would like to say this to the parents. For the parents, we were just over there speaking with the youth. A little bit about myself again. I went to Verona High School. I played football for Verona High School. I was a stand-up athlete for Verona High School. But it started here with an addiction. From 4 DWIs to the cocaine to the heroin. I also was incarcerated 7 times. Again, when I ask you and encourage you to put that in your back pocket about being an enabler or a supporter, I like to challenge you all to kind of take a look at that. Because we say it can't happen to my child, right? My parents, in a million years, would have never thought that I would have been battling with the substance use disorder issue. So it can happen. It can happen to yours. Have those tough conversations, right? Sit down. Don't be their best friend. Be their parent. Be their parent, right? Talk to them. Doing like you're doing now. Come to get informed, right? Be informed, right? Because like we just said, it's new things that's coming out every single day. As we speak right now, somebody somewhere trying to make up something new. So definitely be informed. But again, I can sit here and talk all day, but I'm not, so I'm gonna hand this microphone over.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, William. So I'm Amber Harris. I am the peer recovery specialist with Henrico County's Division of Fire. It would take me about an hour to tell you my whole story, so I'll just give you some brief points. Different from William, I grew up in a house where addiction was rampant. It was acceptable. I remember seeing substances as a young child. My mother still suffers with her addiction today, and I lost my father as a direct result of addiction when I was 9. And that changed the trajectory of my whole life. I did pretty well in school. I had my first child at 19, put myself through nursing school, finished with the 4.0, and at 24 years old, I was diagnosed with a chronic medical condition, and I was prescribed a good number of opiates. The first time I saw a specialist, he gave me 90 pills. And for the next 10 years, I struggled. I knew by, I'd say, day 3 or 4 of taking those pills, I was in trouble. It dinged something in my brain that had never been dinged before. It gave me a false sense of confidence, a lot of energy. I could be a better mother, or so I thought. I could get my tasks done, and the consequences just started piling up. I tried to lie and tell myself things like, my kids are still small, they won't remember. But I don't know about you, if you live in a household with someone, you know exactly what's going on in that household. It really doesn't matter how old your children are. So I did a lot of damage, and I had never seen anyone successfully recover. It just wasn't a part of my life. Most of my family members were using at that time, and I just thought this is how life is going to be for me. Until I had a series of things happen within a really short time period. I got a letter from the Board of Nursing. My vehicle, my brand new SUV, was repossessed. I was evicted from my townhome, and this all happened in a matter of 30 days. And so I went to my local CSB, which I'm a huge champion of CSBs because they do so much good work. And I asked for help. I told the truth for the first time in probably 12 years. And I was sent to treatment for 30 days. I came back and lived in a women's recovery house for another year. And I learned how to be a functioning woman in society. I learned how to be employable. I learned how to be a better mother. And I have also, like William said, been transparent. I have 3 daughters with each of my daughters about my struggles because that continues open and honest communication. My oldest is 24. She has called me from a party in the city saying, everyone here is using and the only person I can think about is you. I'm curious, but I'm scared to death. And like, that is all I ever wanted as a mother, was for my kids to be able to come to me and talk about hard things and know that they'll be supported no matter what. I've really tried to be the mother that I needed when I was growing up. And my children and my relationship now is just incredible. So recovery is possible, resiliency is more than possible, and I'm living proof of that. So I can tell you prevention is so much easier than having to go down that difficult road. So kudos to you all for being here, seeking out new information, and we will finish up the slideshow. So marijuana legalization. As of July 1st, 21, adults 21 years and older may now possess no more than 1 ounce of marijuana on his person or any public place. It remains illegal for anyone under the age of 21 to consume, purchase, or possess marijuana, or to attempt to consume, purchase, or possess any amount of marijuana. Items on the market currently, Delta 8, Delta 9, 10, all with different chemical structures. The difference in chemical structure might mean that it has different effects. So Delta 8, side effects, you're alert and clear-headed, and here are some euphoria, relaxation, pain relief, mental clarity. Delta 9 disrupts the ability to think clearly, remember, and pay attention. It's more of a mind high. And Delta 10 promotes deep relaxation and a mild euphoric sensation. Euphoria, alertness, focus, and energy. So again, marijuana legalization, the officer was talking about the gummies, and the younger people like them because they don't smell. Same thing with the THC vapes. Here are some items on the market that look like regular products. You can see the Cheetos has a Delta 8 label, but they impersonate the name brand chips and snacks and just add their own ingredients to it. One pill can kill. This is the Attorney General's office slogan. So 2023 DEA seized more than 79.5 million fentanyl-laced fake pills and nearly 12,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. And that's from DEA.gov. There have been a significant increase in fentanyl overdoses in schools across the region. Loudoun County Public School has reported they are experiencing an increase in fentanyl overdoses in their high schools. It can be absorbed through the skin by someone without them knowing they had contact with the substance, and there have also been reports of fentanyl-laced marijuana. The bottom line is, any drug supply out in the street is tainted. Stimulants and uppers have fentanyl in it. There is no more heroin, it is all fentanyl, and it is found in marijuana at times as well. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and more than 100 times stronger than morphine, and that little bit on the pencil tip would be fatal to someone without any opioid tolerance. Xylazine has come on the scene, I don't know, probably 6 to 9 months now. It has been found in 48 out of the 50 states. It is an animal tranquilizer. It's not approved in any form for human consumption. It is for large animals. And it's approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for veterinary use only. So the DEA has seized xylazine and fentanyl mixtures in 48 out of 50 states and reported that in 2022, 23% fentanyl powder and 7% fentanyl pills were seized by the DEA contained xylazine. There are specific areas like in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a place called Kensington. They have open air drug markets, and about 90% of the people there are using xylazine and have open wounds. This is caustic to human tissue, so when people are using it IV, they get large open wounds, and they will continue to use in the wound, so it results in infection, amputation, all of the above. So in a lot of our harm reduction efforts, we're including wound care kits because of this. And I just heard 2 days ago, there has been some prevalence of this in Henrico. Users who inject xylazine or drug mixtures with xylazine often develop soft tissue injuries that can lead to necrotic tissue and may result in amputation. The problem with this is when people are mixing drugs, and say someone overdoses that's used fentanyl and xylazine together, your Narcan's gonna work on your fentanyl, but nothing works to reverse xylazine. So it complicates the whole picture. All right, tianeptine is your gas station heroin. This is the only brand I've seen, and I have seen it in local gas stations. It's called Neptune's Fix. In the US, tianeptine products are often marketed as dietary supplements that can improve brain function and treat conditions including anxiety, depression, pain, and opioid use disorder, the FDA says. Some people use tianeptine as an opioid alternative or to self-treat anxiety or depression. Side effects may include agitation, drowsiness, confusion, sweating, rapid heartbeat, high blood pressure, nausea, vomiting, decreased breathing, coma, and death. The FDA is warning consumers not to purchase or use any tianeptine products. So these aren't regulated. They're often used in other countries as an antidepressant, and here it's not approved for anything, and they're still being sold at different gas stations. Kratom is another one. If you have seen all the vape shops around, you'll often see in bright letters Kratom. It starts with a K, and what it is a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia. Consumption of its leaves produces both stimulant effects in low doses and sedative effects in high doses. This can lead to psychotic symptoms and psychological and physiological dependence. It's mostly taken by oral ingestion in the form of tablet, capsules, or extract that can also be made into a tea. This is also not regulated. I worked with a young lady out in California who got a full ride scholarship to college, and she tried Kratom for the first time at a shake shop in California. Dropped out of school, had to go to treatment. I mean, this is a real thing. When sometimes people will try to give themselves Kratom to wean themselves off of heroin or opiates, but when you stop this, you'll also have withdrawals. So it's just that vicious cycle. You can find these at gas stations, vape shops, convenience stores, and flea markets. And the problem is, because it's not regulated, you don't have any idea what's in those pills. Nobody does, besides the people who are selling them. Kratom is not controlled under the Controlled Substances Act. The FDA has not approved Kratom for any medical use, and DEA has listed Kratom as a drug and chemical concern. All right, signs, where and what to expect. So these are some good things to look out for. Abuse, physical and verbal relationships. Mood changes, that was huge for me. Violent and irrational behaviors. Changes in behavior, personality, and mannerisms. Physical changes, bloodshot eyes, widely dilated pupils, sudden weight loss or weight gain, poor hygiene, diminished personal appearance, and drowsiness or fatigue. Academic changes, loss of interest in activities is a huge one. When someone is starting a new addiction, nothing else really matters, or deep in their addiction. The things that they used to care about will fall by the wayside. Avoiding eye contact, frequent hunger or munchies, smell of smoke on breath or clothes, secretive behaviors, missing curfew, under the mattress, closet, drawers, desk, bathroom, in the car, clothing pockets, shoes or shoe boxes, book bags or gym bags, jewelry or keepsake box, stash cans that may look like everyday items, hairbrushes, deodorant, and lipstick containers that may have been hollowed out to hide items. And that last slide jogged my memory. I remember being in high school and all of my friends had curfews and, different rules their parents had set, and I had none of that. And all my friends thought that was so cool. Like, if I didn't come home, nobody was gonna call and try to find me or look for me. I had zero rules. But I so desperately wanted that because rules meant that someone cared about me. So just remember that in dealing with your own youth, that sometimes we'll try to act like we know everything as kids, and we need just as much guidance as anyone else growing up, because when you set limits and boundaries, that means you care, and that is so important to growing youth. This is the emoji drug codes. I know last presentation we had some on the table out there for people to take. I thought this was great. So just the different substances broken down by emojis. Monitor their electronic devices, cell phones, and text messages to understand any code words or emojis. This reference guide is intended to give parents, caregivers, educators, and other influencers a better sense of how emojis are being used in conjunction with illegal drugs. Risk and prevention factors. It is not easy to recognize the warning signs of drug abuse in teenagers, and it is even harder to admit to yourself that your child may have a substance abuse problem. Follow Henrico County's social media accounts to stay updated on new trends and information about upcoming events. Naloxone or Narcan Revive training provides training on how to recognize and respond to an opioid overdose emergency. David Ross, Prevention Supervisor from Henrico Area Mental Health and Developmental Services, will provide more resources as part of this program for risk and prevention measures. And thank y'all so much for listening.
At this time, I would like to invite members of our Henrico Too Smart to Start Coalition to come forward. Henrico Too Smart to Start is our local effort here in Henrico. We're very fortunate to have Serena Gaines and Travis Woods to come up, and they are board members with Henrico Too Smart to Start.
Hi everybody. Henrico Too Smart to Start is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The work that we do is guided by a mission to promote health and wellness in Henrico County, with the primary focus on reducing youth substance abuse through education, advocacy, and capacity building. It's also guided by a vision of to create community where all individuals and families are healthy and safe. Currently, we promote several campaigns. The first one is Not to Vape campaign. This campaign highlights the Quitting and Live Vape Free. The Quitting and Live Vape Free Virginia campaign, which where they have anonymous text messaging services that's designed to assist young people and young adults to quit vaping. The service also includes messages from young people who have quit already, and they offer some of their tips. Another campaign is volunteer. We volunteer at the DEA drug take-back events that allow the citizens of the county to drop off unused medications for proper and safe disposal. We have the Influence the Influencers social media contest. This is a campaign, it's a video campaign for youth that is actually led by youth, where they create videos to promote awareness. And then we have the Youth Opioid Misuse Town Halls, where guest speakers share their experiences on substance use.
Thank you, Serena. How y'all doing? Y'all good? All right. I'm Travis Woods. I just want to share a little bit more about what we do at Henrico Too Smart to Start Coalition. This is a way for you to engage. We invite you to our meetings. We have some virtual and some in person. So again, this is a way for you to collaborate and understand and get to know some of the people that come to these meetings. And this is just awesome. Give everybody a round of applause who's been putting this together on today. This is just awesome. Thank y'all so much for coming out, because this is a way that, again, we say that we care about our young people, and for you to show up, the parents, and I was over there with the young people, they was asking a whole bunch of questions. I mean, a lot of questions, and that's so awesome that Henrico County is doing things of this nature. So again, Henrico Too Smart to Start Coalition is just an entryway to be able to know and meet different people, find out what different people are doing. And I've been doing it, again, for over 12 years. That's how I got to meet Miss Kathy, and we've been knowing each other, doing different events like this, and just continue to engage and find out information. You have anything else you want to say?
As Travis said, that we would love for all the parents, youth, and community leaders to get involved. So we have these flyers outside in the breezeway on how you can get involved. And I just want to share that I joined the Henrico Too Smart to Start board in 2018 and started volunteering because I realized at the time that I had no idea how to have a healthy conversation with my teens about substances. I was under the disillusion that if I had those conversations with them, that I was actually bringing awareness to it. And I didn't want to make them aware. Well, after learning how to have some conversations and having conversations with them, I realized that they were very aware. So just want parents to know that you may not think your children know much about it, but they know a lot more than we know they know. So.
All right, at this time, I would like to welcome up David Ross, who is a prevention coordinator with Henrico Area Mental Health and Developmental Services, to share some important information about risk and protective factors.
Thank you. Hello, again, my name is David Ross with Henrico Prevention. I'm here to talk about both risk factors and protective factors. risk factors that contribute to the likelihood of someone using substances. So therefore, it's very important that the youth and the parent are able to identify those risks so they can be able to come up with ways to find strategies to counteract those risks. And some of the risk factors that we want to look at are environmental, meaning where the child lives. Are there a lot of drug activity going on in the community? Are there a lack of resources available for the individual to access to counteract what's going on in the community? And also, is the child involved in drug activity already based on what's going on in the community? Also, we'll look at social factors. Peer pressure. Is the child under a lot of peer pressure to use from their peers from school, in the community? Also want to look at, right now, the normality of accepting using drugs. Right now, the community right now is really normalizing the use of marijuana, alcohol, and cigarettes. As we saw here, everything's advertised towards the kids. Make it seem it's normal to use marijuana. It's normal to want to have alcohol. That's a risk factor. Also, unfortunately, the lack of parental guidance in the home, be able to guide the child to make proper decisions concerning those social risk factors. And the final one is individual. Are they genetically predisposed to using substances? Have their parents used before them and exposed to using substances, therefore they're predisposed to want to use? Also, early involvement in using drugs early on. Like I said, being able to identify risk factors allows the youth and the parent to come up with strategies to how to build up protective factors to minimize the likelihood of them wanting to use and make bad decisions. As protective factors, you got to identify it includes having positive, strong figures in your home, positive relationships, coaches, mentors, spiritual leaders, someone who can give you positive guidance to make positive choices in your life. Strong community bonds. Is there open communication going on in your home? Are you talking about what's going on with your life? Do you know your child's friends? Where they're going? Or you know what's in their room? Do you know what's on their computer? That's part of having a strong family bond. Community support. Are there access to services in your community? Right now, we have the Connect program in 4 communities. So our youth in the community have somewhere they can go to get positive reinforcement how to avoid the risk factors in their community. Sorry. Educational support. Educational support. Do you have access to information to learn about what's going on? Learn about the substances that are in your community. Learn about these stores selling this product to your child. Do you understand the risk factors of being involved with substances? Knowing what's out there. They learn something new about a new drug they didn't know it even existed to the day. So now you know what there's out there. You teach your child, avoid this. And also, again, community support. Again, are there community support the child? Extracurricular activities. Are your child involved in sports, clubs, something to give them positive reinforcements? And all we're trying to do is build resiliency. Build resiliency with the family and with the child by giving them the ability to identify the risks and consequences of substances. Also help the individual to develop strong, positive problem-solving skills. To be able to solve problems they may find themselves in. How to avoid peer that's pushing them towards using drugs. How do I talk to the individual? Give them self-esteem to tell the person, no, I don't want to use this drug. I don't want to be involved, so they stand on their own 2 feet. Also be able to identify mental health needs, promote mental health wellness. Where can you go get service, where can you go get help? And the whole goal is to build resiliency, so the individual can have the strength to make positive decisions, Be able to thrive against adversity, because some individuals are in very rough communities where they have to make good decisions. By having the good protective factors, be able to identify the protective factors, they can make positive decisions. They won't fall victim to some of the risk factors in their community. As I said earlier, with identifying risk factors and protective factors, verbatim. I don't want to miss this, so it's very clear. By promoting resiliency, we can empower the parent and you to make informed decisions and create a healthy future. That's what it is.
Just for a few minutes, I would like to share, these are some very powerful questions from our youth. And I think it's helpful for parents to see what types of questions our youth have and get some responses here from our presenters. The first question is how to stay away. A lot of youth want to know, how can I stay away from substances?
Who's your peer group? Who's your peer group? The peer group is a negative. The likelihood of you not being stay away is be very difficult. There's no who you around and what are you doing with your life? What are you doing? What kind of positive activity are you doing? Are you involved with the after-school program? Are you involved in any kind of sports? Are you involved in any kind of community groups to give you some positive outlets so you will not be around with individuals?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Ross, for that. Very important. And I think this is for our presenters who shared with our youth. The youth want to know, because obviously you made a profound impact on the youth today. So we thank you for that. And they could see what wonderful people you are. You came here today to share your story with the youth. So they want to know, why did you let drugs get the best of you?
Why did I let the drugs get the best of me? I'll say this, once you first take a drug, drugs takes away an individual's control. If I could cook my heels together 3 times and do it all again, I would. But that shows us how cunning the disease is. Like when we shared with the slides, you know, it was a curiosity thing for me as well. This is not, you know, when we look at when I was 6 or 7 years old, when I was in school, I didn't draw a picture of someone being addicted to a substance. So again, when we look at someone who struggled with the substance use disorder issue, it's a disease. You know, the thing for me is having those tough conversations when your peers present some type of form of substance to you, to talk to your counselor, talk to your parents, because once, and I shared that with the teens, it's called chasing ghosts, because I chased that initial high every single time, but I clearly didn't want drugs to take control of my life. That's my answer.
I completely agree. I will just add that the first time that you use, it's definitely a choice. For me, my gateway was trauma. So if you've been in a very traumatic situation, people use for all kinds of different reasons, right? To relax, to unwind, to relieve pain, and that can be emotional or mental pain, all types of different reasons. That first time, it may be a choice, but if you are truly, if you have a diagnosable substance use disorder, you have lost all power to choose. The people I hung around changed, the decisions I made changed. I would say, I'd never do that, and then I'd do it and draw another line in the sand. Well, that's all right, but I'd never do that, and then I'd do that next thing. Until I was so filled with shame and guilt, I did not even want to be sober because I was so embarrassed of how I was living and the pain that I was causing my family. I wanted to stay altered to escape. So then it's like a rat on a wheel that can never get off, right? And that is the difficult part. It is a disease, it is multifaceted, it's complicated, and the underlying cause has to be treated. The reason, whatever caused the pain in the first place, that has to be treated or the person will not get better.
Thank you so much. And just have really two short questions to finish us out. Again, for the folks who were speaking to the youth, I think they want really concrete examples. I think sometimes because, like we heard, these substances are very tempting for our young people. And so they really wanted to know, well, what's the problem? You know, what can drugs cause? What problems can drugs cause in your life? And maybe just a few, you know, I don't know if we want to go over here to our orbit folks, you know, what problems, what can happen in your life as a drug?
For me, it's caused a lot of problems. I've caused problems with my family. I've lost jobs. I'm clearly incarcerated. These are all things that I never thought that would happen to me. I told the students I went to college, I got degrees, I had good jobs, and I lost it all. I lost my good jobs. I now have felony on my background that will hinder my career when I leave here. I lost a husband. I destroyed a marriage. I'm away from my children at this time, and that's taken a toll on my husband, having to pick up the pieces. I lost a part of who I am. I never thought I could do the things I did. I became a liar. I didn't live up to the morals that I was taught. So I think addiction, I lost part of myself. There's a lot of emotional stress, physical things. It really took a toll on me, I guess.
With me, I lost my dignity. I lost my identity, who I was. Lost the respect of my family, my friends. I even changed friends. You know, they don't want me doing this, or I don't want to hang out with them. I want to hang out with people that want to get high with me. So I just drove myself down even more and more further into the hole. I've lost jobs, business, money, cars, house, and my freedom, the main thing, you know. I'm incarcerated now. I'm doing 2 years on a 5-year bid. And I've done 5 years in the penitentiary, not to mention the years, year and a half, this program, that program, this recovery house, that recovery house. It all keeps me away from my family. That's it.
Thank you so much, Joel and Jessica. Thank you. And to end us on a positive note, a youth really wanted to know in the battle of addiction, could you each just share a message of hope for someone who may be suffering or knows someone who's suffering from addiction or substance use disorder, just maybe a message of hope and recovery?
I would say that you're not alone. There are many people out there like you, and to ask for help. It makes you a bigger person to ask for help, admit that you need help, and know that you're not alone in this. There are other people that are going to be there right there with you.
I would say you can do it. You can quit. Go to NA. Look at the people there. There's people there with 40, 50 years clean. You know, how did they do it?
I would say support. A lot of support is really needed, and if you don't have that by origin, it's okay, build it yourself. Again, you are not alone. It's a huge problem, and it crosses all types of boundaries. You know, addiction doesn't discriminate on race, color, creed, doesn't care what your background is. It's found in all income lines. And that you are more than your addiction, and that there is an ability to recover. And to be honest and vulnerable about that is the first step.
Yeah, I kind of think you all touched it, you know, honesty, having that tough conversation with your support system, and being able to have that courage to reach out, and also don't be afraid to be a leader. Once you reach out to that support system, to be able to support another individual, because you know, from my background, from what I do, supporting other individuals as well, it keeps me, it supports me as well. It's a two-way street.
Thank you so much for those messages of hope and positivity. We want to thank all of our parents for being here this evening.